Thanks for joining and allowing Metaverse HQ to host. We're gonna run through some details related to the Ultraman project. Excited about it. Excited about the history. Excited to hear a lot of what you all have been coming down the pike. So, once again, thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Hi guys,
So
thank you.
maybe hey, so maybe to start off, can you give us a little bit of background, especially from a historical perspective, on a few things in general, the project itself, and then sort of the linkage between Taiga, you guys from an Ultraman NFT project, as well as the Dweeb Studio.
Sure. Maybe I can. Well, before that, let me first introduce myself. So, I'm Kaiju Basta. Currently the lead community manager for Ultraman ETH. So I basically help Ultraman with marketing, collabs, community building, and then here and there for the rest of the models. And then here, representing Taika Entertainment, we have Oopsie.
Hi guys. I'm Whoopsie, representing Taiga. So I think we've been the exclusive agent of the Ultraman brand for over 40 years, and we've been developing IP products relating to Ultraman, whether it's helping partnering with DWeb to build a game or merchandise for over 40 years. So we're very familiar with the IP and happy to join the NFT space to do something creative.
Yeah, and to add on to what Oopsie just said, right? This project is basically a joint venture between two companies. One is the Web Studio, as you has mentioned earlier. So the representative from the Web Studio is Happy, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. But the Web Studio is a game development studio. They have been working closely with Taiga to release multiple Ultraman games. Their latest release, I believe, is Ultraman Rumble. It's garnered over about 5 million downloads worldwide across both Apple Store and Google Play Store. So that's kind of the background of the two companies working on this project. As for Ultraman ETH, right? So maybe I can give you a quick introduction to the project. So Ultraman ETH is basically a collection of 7,800 unique NFTs created based on a tokusatsu film called Ultraman. So, if you're not familiar with the show, right? Ultraman is basically the main character of an action series film, which started in 1966. So, this was over 55, 56 years ago. Um, that was back when there wasn't any cartoon or anime, right? I'm not so sure if you guys have heard of Godzilla, but the Ultraman series was actually developed by the same studio, created by the same studio, and it played a big role in pioneering the beginning of Japan's monster craze and the henshin hero genre. So the film kind of holds a great influence in kids in Asia, in a similar manner that characters like Ultraman holds influence to kids in the West. So I'm sure if you ask any Asian kid um, out there, they can probably tell you about Ultraman. So a bit background about Ultraman is talking about the series. I saw Ultraman is like an alien who comes from Nebula's M78 or the Land of Light, and he basically is here to protect Earth from monster invasion, and from a historical perspective, there are actually multiple Ultraman. I think it's a long standing series which started in 1966 but still exists today. I think there are over about 60 Ultraman so far since they've started the series. But RIP covers the first eight Ultraman from the first six series. So That is Father of Ultra, Mother of Ultra, Sophie, Ultraman, Ultra Seven, Ultraman Jack, Ultraman Ace, and Ultraman Taro. So that's the brief history. In terms of the project, right? So the project is 3D collection art, which is basically designed to capture key aspects of the current pop culture, the crypto culture, while also paying tribute to the 5 decade long history of the superhero that we hold such a special place in our heart. And yeah, basically, digital artists from across from multiple countries built, um, contributes to the completion of this project and built different elements to make sure that all these pop culture and crypto culture references are captured across the different trades. Not sure if you guys have seen our art preview, but if not, you should check it out on our Twitter profile. There has been multiple Ultraman art with references to pop cultures. Some of you, maybe I can give you an example. So if you scroll to um, Ultraman, right, the latest art preview, um, we did Ultra Seven wearing a Hard Fork Cafe T-shirt, which is a references to Hard Rock Cafe. We also did Ultraman Taro with a blue skin. It's basically references from the movie Tron. So yeah, that's kind of a quick summary of Ultraman and the project as a whole.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I love the leaning into the historical aspect, obviously, and then the balance that you all are trying to go to with, bringing in those historical elements and then the pop culture components. Can you talk a little bit more about that from an art perspective? Like, how tough is that balance between what you keep historical and how much new and freshness you bring from a cultural perspective?
Yeah, so I think if you've watched Ultraman before, the show is very it has kind of a serious tone. So it was actually created as like a sci-fi film, um, with the target audience of like adults, not so much like five kids. Uh, yeah, not so much of 5-year-old or 6-year-old kids. So um, what we're trying to do is we're trying to dress this Ultraman up with like some street fashion clothes, right? Or even clothes that is referencing any pop culture or crypto culture. So I think no one has done this before. We're doing it because Ultraman I think holds such a special place in many kids' heart, especially kids in Asia. Um, a lot of us have already forgotten about Ultraman, but I'm sure it's super super influential to many people. So we want to just bring Ultraman back to the modern era, um, kind of provide um, walk down the memory lane for many kids who are now adults, and yeah, basically um, make them relevant again, and create a collection so that collectors or huge fans can actually skip down memory lane, take part in Ultraman as an adult.
Yeah, and in that collecting piece, which a lot of us are doing in the NFT space, one thing that always comes up, and you mentioned it in your background piece, but you all seem to lean into it pretty heavily, is IP and IP rights. So
Yep.
especially with everything involved there, from Taiga to you all to building a game to the historical relevance to the series that are continuing to move. Kaiju, I know you've written an article out there, a
Yeah.
Medium article, and we've pinned that message for folks that want to do a deeper in dive read of that. But can you give just some high level details related to IP specifically related to Ultraman and the project?
Sure.
Sure.
Actually, I'll let Woofsy from Taika answer this question because he's the one who's in charge of the IP and everything, so he will have the best view on this.
Yes. Yeah. Happy to talk a bit about the IP. So if you have read the article by KB, Kaiju Buster, we want to be as transparent as possible at the start, so people can do their own homework, can research the IP, and make sure they are comfortable with it. So the IP, we have the IP in some countries and not in some other. So the IP has been under litigation for quite a while, but the end result is that we have the IP for the first six series that KB has mentioned, including Ultraman, Ultraman A, Sophie, and so on. And the countries that we do not have that IP, our IP does not cover, would be the US, China, and Japan. So we work with in different countries before and have been successful in building merchandises. Our game is actually available on Apple stores, Google Play Store for over 7 years, and we worked really hard to develop the game, but with respect to the jurisdiction in the US, in Japan, and in China. So there are those are the two caveats to the IP. Other than that, we have the reproduction right. We can do almost anything with the IP. But for the NFTs specifically, the NFT will be or on personal use only, and not commercial. Meaning, if you buy the IP, if you buy the NFT, you can use it personally. The only restriction is that once you buy the NFT, you cannot reproduce the NFT on a shirt, for example, and so on. Yeah. If you have any specific questions on that, happy to add to address it.
Yeah, absolutely. When I talk IP, I like to make it as meaningful to the buyers, right, to the community as possible. So maybe two questions there. One, I think you clarified, which is for anyone that purchases an NFT, it's meant strictly for personal use. There's no commercial rights transferred to the buyer of any of these NFTs, correct?
Correct. That's right.
Okay.
So
And then
yeah. So if you wanna print it on a case, your iPhone case, or use it on as your profile picture and so on, it's definitely you can do that. But if you print it on a shirt and sell it on eBay, I mean sell it on Amazon or so on to make money out of it, that would not be allowed. Yes.
Okay, and then maybe for the country specifically where you do not have rights, what does that mean to them? Are they allowed to participate in the project at all? Are they allowed to purchase? What does the exclusion do for the buyers or potential buyers from those countries?
Yes. So the restriction is based on location. So if you are from those country at the time of mint, meaning when you click the mint button or the purchase button of the NFT, if you are in those three countries, the US, Japan, and China, those are not allowed. And we will be quite clear on this on our mint website, where you have to be quite clear that you are not from those three countries at the time of mint. So we have been suggesting that if you are from those countries and want to mint, you can either um, help get your friend to mint one for you, or be in another countries at the time of mint. So those are the two most suggested route. Some people suggested VPN and so on, but we would not advise that. Yeah.
Are you have do you have any restrictions on the website at the point of mint, or is it just the disclaimer that's primarily going to be used?
Yeah, I think we juggle with the idea of blocking IP, but we know that people VPN is quite
Right.
easy to access, and it would not it would at the end of the day it would not help. So it would be just a self certification, meaning you have to kind of click verify that you are not from those country before you mint. Yep.
Yeah, and let me jump in a little bit. So I think Wolfsy said that our IP is not valid in three countries, right? I think he might have mentioned China, but I think the countries that are not valid
Oh,
are
sorry.
Thailand,
Japan, Thailand, and
Japan, USA. Yeah, we
Yeah,
actually
sorry.
won a court case in China. But to add on to Oopsie, right? In terms of the if you're from those three countries, what will be the mechanics that will be put in place to basically make sure people from those countries cannot mint, right? So the mechanics, we actually don't want to share it yet because if we just share it with everyone, eventually they will find a way to bypass it, right? So um, we don't want to. I don't think it's a good idea to share yet, but there will definitely be something put in place to make sure the people from these three countries won't be able to mint. Um, but then I want to touch a bit more on the IP as well, right? So, what we our license doesn't cover these three countries, but and as Oopsie mentioned, it's based on location. So, if you are in these three countries, regardless of where you are from, you won't be able to mint. So let's say you are Indonesian, right? But you're Indonesian living in the US, you won't be able to mint Ultraman NFT. By the same token, if you're Japanese, but you don't live in Japan, you live in Indonesia, then you will be able to mint the Ultraman NFTs. And the way we think about the IP, right? So what we are not allowed to do is we're not allowed to sell Ultraman related products in these three countries. So if you're you want to buy an NFT, the best way that I think you can go about is asking your friend who are not in the three countries to mint it for you. And the analogy for this is something like this. So imagine you own a company, right? You think of NFT as a toy. So Taiga and the web are not distributing these toys in China, in Japan, Thailand, and the US. So, but if your friend, right, purchases the toy for you outside of these countries and then ship it to you in the US, that's basically not against um, RIP, because at the end of the day, you're making the purchases outside of the countries that we don't have the license to, and then you're just sending it back to your friend. And in regards to secondary sales, right? I'm sure a lot of you might have a question. Okay, if I'm in the NFTs, will I be able to sell it in a secondary market? I think the same concept holds. So imagine you purchase a toy in a different country, right? That is not the toy is not distributed, let's say in the US, and you want to sell it. So just think of it as like selling it on eBay, right? So if even though Taiga and DWeb, as the project owner, cannot sell these NFTs in the three countries, if it's in a secondary market, that's totally fine. It's not against the IP or anything, because the one making the purchase or making the sales is not directly by Taiga and the web, but rather in a peer-to-peer fashion in a secondary market, like the way people buy secondhand stuff and sell on eBay. So that's how we see it.
Well, thank you for that. I think one of the big things I wanted to get out of this is making sure that was clear to folks on this spaces, right? And you all, from everything I've seen in research, really try to push that out and do enough due diligence to keep folks safe and obviously the project safe as well. So with that, I want to pivot back to community, especially KB, given your role. Can you speak a little bit about how you're building community, fostering community right around this sort of historical brand?
Yeah, so the way we think about the project, right? So um, what we've always wanted, right, is to build a community-driven project. And the way we build the community, right, I think there are multiple components to it. So um, how we started off, right? We actually started with like a Twitter, and then the Discord was private. And one of the key fundamental beliefs for us is that, okay, if you want to build a good project with a good community, right? At the end of the day, any project, like if you're an NFT project, the biggest most important component of the project of the community. Without the community, projects fail, right? So with that fundamental belief in mind, what we want to do is we wanted to create a very strong core group of community in the beginning. How we approach it, right? Like when we first launched our Discord, we actually go through our Twitter to see who actually has shown that, if they were to be onboarded to Discord, they would play a big role in helping us set a culture that would cascade down to the following members to come. And so, with that in mind, right, when we started building out Discord, it was actually invite only, and everyone in our Discord was actually handpicked by the team. We go down, all the comments, all the tweets that we've made, and then we made personal invites to all of these community members that we believe would help us set a great culture for the following members. So that's kind of how we started it off. And then the way we distribute whitelists, right? So what we really don't want is we don't want people to mindlessly grind. What we like is we want to create an environment that fosters people building long-term and real relationships. And so, to make sure that that happens, we make sure that our whitelist distribution or our ultra list distribution process takes everything of that into account. So, when the server was still small, I think our mod team is about 15 people. So, what we usually do, right? All these mods, and then myself and Peanut, who's the head mod, and also SK, who's the other community manager, and Happy and Wolfsy as well. All of us actually hang out a lot in the server, and then we make observations of who basically is a good Samaritan, who basically helps show people around when they're new, um, who spreads positive vibes in the server, who creates an environment and help us build a community that other people want to be in, right? So that's kind of the how we evaluate each community member, and then we hold what we call a weekly consolidation meeting, where everyone, including our mods, the core team, come together and then make nominations on who they believe are deserving of whitelist. And just to touch upon how to get whitelisted, right? Basically, we just want people who are good Samaritan. We want people who can spread positive vibes, and make contributions to the project, whether through introducing us to potential partner projects, contributing to fan art, or making memes, or even hosting competitions in the community. And so, um, we hold that weekly consolidation meeting so that every one of our mods and then ourselves can make nominations, and then we actually discuss people one by one. So we actually remember a lot of our community members. So if they're whitelisted, then they have, unless they receive a whitelist from a contest or collab that we did with partner projects, then every single one of them were actually discussed in a weekly consolidation meeting. Um, and then we, as a project, right, recently opened up our Discord. I think right now we have about 12K members. So with a lot more members, the challenge becomes then, okay, how do we make sure that we form a comprehensive view on our nominations to the ultra list, right? Because once the server gets bigger, our team of 15 definitely don't have the capacity or the ability to form a comprehensive view on each community member, right? So what we decided to do was we actually just rolled out a new whitelist distribution process where we say, okay, um, we keep an internal list of the OG members. So basically, these are the members who joined our Discord before we started dropping private invite links on our Twitter. So this means that all these members, right, were actually either handpicked by the team because they showed that they could help us build a great culture, or they join through the allocations of the partner projects. And how we're going to go about the new ultra list distribution process is all of these OG members whom we gave them the ultra OG roles will have the ability to make nominations of the members in the server. So we create a specific channel for them. They can make nominations, tell us why some of the community members are deserving of whitelist, right? And then as a team of as the core team and then the mod team, we go in and then we review all these nominations, and then we reward all the deserving nominated or nominees of whitelist based on what we see fit. So before the nomination process is done by only our mods and then ourselves, but now, as we said that we see this project as a very community driven project, I think the OG members now have the ability to make nominations as well, and that also includes those who are already in the whitelist, right? So the ones that have already been selected, as I already mentioned, we place a lot of emphasis on making sure our original community or the initial community is super strong. So because we believe that the culture that we set up will eventually cascade down to the server. So day two, the ones who have Ultralist will be able to make nominations on the new members to the whitelist. So yeah, that's kind of a summary. Not sure if it's too long.
No, it's not too long. You spoke to the history of where you guys were to where you are now. I know I've been in a Discord, checking around, looking in all of the channels, and you really see some genuine conversations in there, less grindy. You guys also have a purge process, which I know you didn't speak about, right? But that
Yeah.
exists out there just because you guys want to have, active people and people that really care about the project. So I
Yes.
can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe along those lines, if we can touch on it really quickly, do you still have whitelist spots available? What would you say to people that maybe are just now hearing about this project and want to join the server? And
Right.
are they playing catch up? Can they still get involved, etc.?
Yes. So actually, initially, right, we actually wanted to make one min equal to two whitelists. I mean, oh sorry, one whitelist equal to two mints. But then what we realized is that a lot of people want to be part of the whitelist as well. And we actually have seen a lot of people put in the work into creating fan art or even build us a website, even though we already have one, but we haven't released. Like there are a lot of great community members, and if we did two whitelists, I mean 2 minutes per whitelist, right? Like we won't be able to distribute all these. We won't be able to make sure that all these people who are deserving of whitelist are will we be able to get a chance to get on the list. So we decided to make one whitelist equal 1 mint, and I think we have quite a bit of whitelist to give out because we made that adjustment. So if you're new here today, come join the server. I'm sure that if you are a good community member, you some way somehow contribute to helping us grow the project, whether through introducing prospective partners or being a good Samaritan in the server or even hosting events, basically creating positive vibes, right? I think you will get noticed for sure, either by our mod team or our OG community members. And I like to think that our OG and then everyone who has the power to nominate, they all want the same thing. They want the best for the project. So if for sure you can contribute, whether through being a good Samaritan, introducing us to prospective partners, then for sure you will definitely be placed on the whitelist. In terms of the specific numbers, I think we have about, I'd roughly say, almost 1,000 spots left to give from the community allocation. So to touch upon that a little bit, right? I think the total number of whitelists is about 2,800. we allocated half of that to prospective partners and collabs, and then the other half to the community. So we always make sure that the community allocation will be at least half of the total whitelist allocation, just to make sure that, as I said, we're a community driven project. So um, it only makes sense to allocate at least half to the community rather than to collabs or partnerships.
Awesome. So just to recap for folks out there, if you're not involved in the project, or even if you're in there and still looking to get whitelist, those opportunities are still there. There's going to be opportunity for some public opportunity as well, I believe, and then obviously secondary as well. So maybe let's transition a bit, right, into some more details about the project. You obviously have the IP, the 3D art. You all are sharing all of that. There's not a formal roadmap released yet, right? The
Yeah.
website's technically not live yet. I know from my research, I found about 5 things that I think are for sure on the roadmap. But
Mm-hmm.
before I dive into any of that, or talk to it, I want to see if I can get you to leak in the alpha first. So maybe can you talk a little bit about where you guys are in the project from a roadmap perspective, and then
For
getting the
sure.
website up.
For sure. Actually, I mean, I think the website has already is complete. We're just waiting on the right time to release it. So for some context, we actually wanted to mint early next month. But given the current market conditions, right? We don't wanna just rush everything, especially in a hostile environment where if we rush, no one benefits from it. People won't hold a lot of flippers, and even if you flip, you won't make a lot of profit. So that's why we decided to delay, push the mint back a little bit, and then reevaluate the situations, and then accordingly shift the launch date of our website. But for next week, right, we will for sure be definitely releasing our roadmap, and I can give you some information on the roadmap. So the project itself, right? So live right after mint, there's gonna be a staking mechanics. So if for all the audience out there who are not familiar with staking, right, it's essentially a mechanics where you basically stake your NFTs in a contract, and that takes the NFTs out of the open market, reducing the supply, and it allows when supply is low and the demand is high, the prices rises. So that's how we want to go about it. So there will be a staking mechanics, and the way we see staking, right, we see it as a gateway for holders to unlock different multiple other utilities. So right after mint, there will be a staking mechanics live, and then once you stake, right, by staking your NFTs, you unlock additional benefits. So right now there are 3 key benefits that are confirmed, right? So the first one is a 2D collection monster drop. So our IP, as Oopsie mentioned, covers the first 6 Ultra series, and it covers all the characters in the series, including the monsters. So we actually have a lot of other characters that have not been covered to play around with. So we're basically going to create a 2D collection based on the monsters, and then we're going to allocate a portion of the collection to distribute to the holders who stake the NFTs. And I think we're already working on the collection. If you look at, if you've got a chance to check out our Twitter or through scroll through Discord, we actually have multiple art contests, and the reason for that is because we want to crowdsource artists and find, you know, super competent artists to work with us on the monster collection. Um, as for the specific time period for the duration required that you need to stake in order to be eligible for a monster drop, that is still to be determined. But it will be the first primary utility for the Ultraman NFTs. The second utility, right, will be physical merch. So, Oopsie, if you can add on to this, that'd be awesome. But my understanding is that Taika Entertainment, right, has been working with multiple other brands to develop merchandise based on the Ultra series, and the way we think about merch, right? If you look at the art style, and then you know that we actually have, well, Ultraman will be wearing some of the street fashion clothes as well. We want to create an exclusive merch collection with either a regional brand or a global brand to create a truly exclusive collection of streetwear based on the Ultraman character. And I think Taiga has experiences doing this before. So we'll see if you can just maybe give them a bit of a background on what you guys have done in the past, or in terms of merchandising. That'd be awesome.
Sure. Thank you. So I think making merchandises for Ultraman has not is not something new for us, right? We've been doing this for quite a while, and we have a lot of partnering brands that we have developed merchandises together in the past. Um, some of this will be the past work would be available to be seen on our website. We'll slowly release out what we have done in the past, so people, the community, can see what the merchandise would look like once it's released. So I think it will be something cool. It will be something very exclusive and limited, and I think people will like it.
Yeah. So that's kind of the merch. And so the third utility, right? So we got the monster drop. Now got the merch. The third one is basically a monthly raffle of one-on-one NFTs. So what one of the things that we've been working behind the scenes, right, is a one-on-one art by some of our favorite artists. Happy, who unfortunately cannot make it today, is in charge of that, and he's been working closely with many prominent artists in both the digital art and the physical art. And what we're trying to do, right, since we own the IP, we're currently working with multiple artists to create one-on-one arts, and then we're gonna do a monthly raffle of these art to the stakers of the NFTs. And the monthly raffle is basically guaranteed for the first 12 months since mint date. So there will be at start uh, at least a 12 one-on-one NFTs in total. And although the art can be subjective, right? Like we value um, these pieces a lot, and if you end up winning the raffle, right, we're gonna create an option for you to sell the art back to us at 15K dollars in the form of ETH. So they have the option to either convert the art to ETH at 15K US value, or they can choose to keep it or sell it in the secondary market. So if they decide to sell in the secondary market, right, the option to convert the art to ETH will retain throughout the art's lifetime. So even if you sell the art to someone else and they buy it, the person who purchased the art from you can convert the art to ETH at any point in time. And what's good about that, right, is that it gives the art an intrinsic value, regardless of who holds it. So, with that said, imagine an Ultraman piece by your favorite artist. Like, how cool would that be? And if you're actually thinking of selling the art, you will always retain that option, and that provides the additional liquidity, and gives the art an intrinsic value. Um, so that's kind of the three main utilities. There will definitely be more utilities, but the idea is not to overpromise, but to over deliver. So so far these are the three main confirmed utilities. And for future ones, right? One of the things that I like to touch upon is that Taiga Entertainment. Maybe we'll see you can provide shed some light onto this, but Taiga Entertainment as a company is a media publishing company, and they have worked together with many IP owners in the past, right? I think Happy, who is not here, um, is familiar with the process. But basically, before we even chose to do the Ultraman NFT project, right, we actually talked to multiple IP owners to see if um, they too would want to bring their IP content to the NFT space. The thing is that a lot of brands actually want to get into the space, but they just don't know how. So they're kind of on the fence on the issue. So what we're trying to do, right? Ultraman was the first brand that decided that they want to innovate and see how it goes, right? So in the future, right, if this drop is a success, a lot of new companies that Taika Entertainment has working relationships with would definitely want to join into the NFT space. So if the Ultraman NFT project is a success, whether through the community, right, making sure that there's a solid community, the mint sells out, and the floor price is retained, then many other IP owners would want to join to the space, and um, you know we're gonna make sure that there's gonna be mechanics that allows all the original holders to some kind participate in the future IP drop, um, if that was to happen. And happy if you probably know a lot of these potential partners than me, so might be a good idea for you to shed some light on this.
Sure. So, as in our experience as working with different brands, I don't want to name the brands at the moment because don't want to leak too much. But
Oh, it's
we
just me and you here. You can leak them. It's okay.
so these brands are mostly Japanese anime. That is, I think if I say the name, everybody will know about it. So we what we're trying to do is, if this project is a success and these brands see Ultraman as the pioneer, and see it as a successful case where they can see that the NFT space is real, and that we are capable of developing the community to cater around the brand. I think it would set us for a type of a launch pad where we can work with other brands as well, and do these sorts of communities for different IPs. So that would be very interesting. Yep.
Awesome. And Tiger, I'm gonna flip the if to a win when the project is a success. Um, but KB, I want to dig into this roadmap a bit. You guys, you just dumped a lot of alpha. I'm not gonna rehash it all. I want folks to dig into it. We might have to throw this recording around a bunch of places, but I'll ask about a few things there.
Right.
Specifically on the staking mechanism, right? So you're going to stake, you're going to earn these different things that you talked about, and probably
Mm.
some things that you didn't talk about.
Yeah.
In terms of how does that work for the folks that buy on secondary though? So let's say I stake, right? And there's
Mm.
if we pinned a tweet for you guys to go look at it. If you go look at it, there's another piece of alpha in there about minting or buying on Dutch and getting a bonus a couple of days for staking. But
Yes.
separate from that, let's
Mm.
say somebody stakes, it's staked for 25 days.
Mm.
They unstake, they sell on secondary, I buy. Does my
Mm.
staking now start at zero or do I retain the original 25 days?
So if the NFT is unstake, right, the accumulated duration or rewards will be reset. So this means that at each level, they will have to be completed again in order to receive or qualify for the rewards. So let's say, right, you buy the NFTs off a secondary market, even though it could have been staked for let's say a month. To list it on OpenSea, right, it has to be unstaked. So the person who buys the NFT will need to restake again, and the duration count will start at zero. And the way we look at unstaking, right? So staking and unstaking is not locking your NFTs. Um, we want to make sure that the community has the option to always unstake, because we understand that sometimes you need the liquidity, right? So we'll keep that option for everyone to unstake, but um, you know the um, the duration that you've accumulated so far will be reset. And one thing I want to highlight on that is that, for each utility, right, that I've listed before, there's actually a quota. So for example, a monster drop, right, that could only be 5,000. This is a hypothetical number, but there might only be 5,000 NFTs that could qualify for it. So the first 5,000 NFTs will receive monster drop. And if, let's say, you're the 6,000 NFT, and you stake for a sufficient duration of time, you won't be qualified because the allocation has been filled. And I think you touched upon the extra 5 days bonus upon staking, right? So I'd like to touch upon that a bit as well. So after our Dutch auction, right? If you participate in Dutch auction, the whitelist sales, and then you want to stake your NFTs, you basically get a 5 day staking bonus. So that this gives back to the earlier supporters, and then it also incentivizes people not to flip the NFTs but to stake it right after mint.
Now, thanks for that clarification. Maybe the one follow-up on staking before I move to something else. You mentioned the counter resets.
Yep.
Have you guys thought through making sure that folks aren't able to double dip? Meaning, I'd stake for my 30 days, get my reward, right? I unstake, start over. If I hit 30 days again, do I get that same reward again, or is it tied to sort of
Oh
one
no,
per NFT token
it's
ID?
one per NFT. So if you already qualified for it, then you won't be able to qualify for it again. And it's also, as I said, it's limited to a specific allocation. So for sure, we'll make sure that only one NFT is qualified for one utility at a time, so that there's more space for others to participate.
Awesome. Well, I got a couple more. I know we're getting close to an hour mark here, but I got a couple more questions. Hopefully
Sure.
quick hitters, and then I do want to open it for maybe 2 questions or so, at least from the audience.
Of course.
But before we wrap up here, so I'm gonna try to tease a little bit more out of you from the roadmap, and I put it from you all. So I'm gonna blame you for leaking. There's there's two things that sort of are around you all's ethos of the project that I'm gonna mention. One, obviously a game, right? You've got a game studio involved.
Yeah.
There's got to be a game coming down the pike somewhere on that roadmap, right?
Yeah. So for the game, right? We actually thought hard about this. Cause D Web's strong suit. It's their actually the actual specialty is based on game development. But if you think about most blockchain games, right? Especially play to earn games, it's very, 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 very hard to build one sustainably. We don't want to spend like too much effort, right? Like, let's say more like a year or something, building a game that will last for a couple of months. So, um, from in the perspective of that question, the game is not out of the picture, but we actually have to think quite hard on how we want to deliver it, to make sure that the game is sustainable, and it's all in the design as well, right? So the short answer is, at the moment, we can't promise anything on the game side, but we're actually exploring.
I can appreciate that. I'm very deep into PD space and looking at everything there, and I think the due diligence you all's community will respect in terms of what's being built out. And
Yeah.
obviously, like Tyga and everybody else, sort of wrapped around you from the corporate perspective, right, and building up the community and making sure things work out there. The only other thing maybe on the roadmap, I've got a bunch of other conspiracy theories I've got, but the one I'll bring up is in your FAQ. You mentioned the Ultra DAO. Can you
Yeah.
speak to that a little bit and how that fits into the roadmap?
Yeah, for sure. So the way we see it, right, as like a community driven project, um, we want to create a DAO where, um, if the project receives any kind of benefits, um, it redirects these benefits to the holders, right? So whether it's in the form of a whitelist, right, from prospective partner projects, or if it's some kind of a collaboration deal that the project receives, the project owner, we ourselves won't keep anything, and we'll give it to the DAO. so that the DAO, right, and the people who are running the DAO or the DAO council gets the benefit from the project.
All right. Thanks for that clarification. I'm
Yeah,
sure folks are
and
interested in hearing more about the mechanics and the
yeah,
details
and then
on how that'll
maybe I
work out.
can provide a little bit more details on the DAO. So, after mint, right, I believe we're gonna have a treasury fund. So a part of the mint proceeds will be allocated to the treasury, and as a DAO project, right, as a community driven project, all the community members who hold the NFTs will have the option to create proposals on how they want to utilize the funds to further grow the project as well. So whether it's about installing a new initiative to increase exposure or onboard new members or whatever, that will help us grow the project. The community will be able to make that proposal, and then the funds from the DAO will be used to fund those proposed initiatives.
Awesome. Awesome. I got two more questions and then I'll kick it to somebody from the audience. So anybody that wants to ask a question, feel free to request and we'll bring you up here in a second. The first of my last two questions. So we talked about the roadmap, all of these items. There's a bunch already sort of being that has been created right around the Ultraman brand, especially with the partners that you all have. Does the NFT entitle holders to any items or maybe any enhanced utility related to things that are already out there in the market, whether it's games or merch, etc.?
KB.
Hello.
Hi.
At least KB.
Hey, sorry. I got disconnected. So,
Did you hear the question or no?
yeah, I didn't hear the question. Can you repeat that?
Okay. Yep. My question was, does the NFT
Mm.
entitle holders to any rights or utility related to uh, Ultraman related merch or games that are already out there in the market? So things that are not new per se.
Okay, I'll let Whoopsie from Taiga take this one then.
Sure. So we have to be quite careful with the enabling utility for existing products, right? Because we have to make sure that the product is ours. So as I mentioned before, there are different types of IP. So what we thought about is something along the line of exclusive events for people. I think the game that have been developed by DWeb, which may come out in end of next year, later this year. We try to include some utilities in that, but as KB has mentioned, including utility in games is quite challenging to have it basically be sustainable because you're balancing token holders, NFT holders, players, and so on. So we will try to incorporate or enable utility as much as possible, but at the moment, that's it's quite um, complex to do that with regarding to the IP, but definitely not out of the picture. Yeah.
Thank you. One of the big things I'm about is clarity for folks, and that dovetails me into my last question. So, uh, one of the I think the biggest things that sets projects apart that helps you to continue to build upon success, especially as with the speed at which things move in this space are two things. One, innovation and differentiation. So KB, maybe can you talk a little bit about those two aspects from a project perspective? Like what do you guys feel is maybe your main differentiator and or like how are you innovating to push things forward?
Hey, sorry, Hatcher. I think I couldn't hear a question. I think my connection is breaking off. Can you repeat the question? So sorry.
No problem. No problem. No problem. Um, I talked about two key things I think in analyzing a project for me,
Mm,
especially in the Web3 and crypto space. One being innovation, the other one being differentiation. So can you talk
mm.
about those two aspects and maybe how you all are embracing that? You know, what do you feel is your key differentiator, right? And why should people pay attention to you guys versus the hundreds, thousands of other projects out there?
Mm. Okay, so key differentiator, right? Why we're different from other projects.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think obviously I think the most thing that stands out about our project is the IP, right? I think we're the first ever project with a legitimate IP to actually build an NFT. So if you look at all the NFTs in the past, right, like whether it's blue chip NFTs, all of those are new IPs, and it's a brand that was created in the blockchain space. While we're quite different in the sense that we're bringing a brand, right, a brand that is global brand, well known across the world, and we're bringing it to the NFT space instead of building one out from scratch. So I believe, right, if this project is a success, it paves a lot of ways for other brands, right, who might not know much about the NFT space but want to get in, to kind of like instill confidence in them that hey, actually, you know what, brands can come in too. And the people in the NFT space, I believe they love brands, right? At the end of the day, Web3 is good, but it's also about building a connection between Web2 and Web3. And I think that's what we're trying to do. That's what Ultraman it has been. Um, that's kind of the vision, right? From both the project owner's perspective as well. It's not about Ultraman. We also are looking at many other IP owners and looking to onboard those IPs into the NFT space. So I think that's kind of a quick answer to how we're different from other projects.
Yeah, let me add a bit on that, right? And I think the other aspect that distinguishes us from other project is that our teams were not found several months before the mint, right? We have a dedicated team of licensing, Web3, game dev professionals, and people who have track record of building successful blockchain products. The team that help us bring this blockchain staking mechanics and making is actually a DeFi team that has a successful protocol on Binance Smart Chain, and we think that with the experienced team, we are capable of doing quite a lot to bring this Ultraman project forward, right? Secondly is like KB has mentioned is the IP. We've been building the Ultraman IP for several decades, and we are very familiar with the IP, what people like, what people don't like, and with the experience, I think you'll see something new and more established as for the NFT. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. And with that, we're gonna get. We brought Camp up to ask a question, so please unmute yourself and ask away.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Hello?
you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. Good day. I'm actually outdoors right now, so pardon me, but you do have here some noises in the background. I just want to say that I'm
Is
glad
Bell
that.
speaking or is my connection lost again?
Oh my God. I,
I think it's your connection. I can hear Bell pretty well.
You
Tiger,
can
can you
hear
hear
her?
her?
I can't
Yes,
hear
I
her at
can.
all.
oh my
I
God.
can only hear you. Uh,
Wow. Well, maybe I'll try and relay the question. Bell, if you want to ask
okay.
the question, and I'll
Okay.
relay it back.
Okay.
Okay.
So my question is, I believe that part of a successful NFT project is a great balance between the short-term holders and the long-term holders. So I just want to know what the team thinks about it, or what the team intends to do regarding those balancing of short-term and long-term holders.
Sure. So the question is, how do we make sure both the long term and the short term holders benefit from the launch, right?
Yeah.
I think obviously when we build a project, right, we want people to hold because at the end of the day, and we want to keep innovating. If you look at our roadmap, we're also looking for future IP launches as well. So obviously, we want to create a strong community who would just hold the NFTs. But we know that's not possible. I think everyone who joins there'll be a portion of the community who's looking to make money. At the end of the day, we all here to make money, right? And so our goal as the project owner, we want to make sure that both the long-term holders and the short-term holders are actually benefit from this. I think the long-term holder will definitely benefit from the roadmap, right? Because that's pretty clear. But in terms of the short-term holders who want to flip, then flipping isn't, well, from project perspective, we probably wouldn't want that, because um people would just flip and might destroy the floor price. But at the end of the day, it's something that we can avoid. um and flipping is actually, in some sense, is a good thing for the project, right? Because it was that the project is hot enough for people to actually make money off of it. And I think in order for that to happen, one thing that is important is, we need to make sure that we launch the right time, right? So in a market condition that is hostile like this, most likely we're gonna see a lot of flippers. And even for some projects, right, from some prominent projects, they couldn't even sell out, and the floor prices drop, just gets crushed right after mint. So from our end, what we want to do is we want to make sure we time our launch right, so that all the participants, whether you're a long-term holder or you're a short-term holder, there will be some kind of benefits to it. And that all comes down to the market condition, right? I'm making sure that we launch in an environment where everything can thrive. So yeah, that's why we are considering pushing our mint date back a little bit, and make sure that when we launch, the conditions basically would support in making sure all the different types of stakeholders actually benefit from the launch.
No, Bell, thank you for that question. Appreciate that response, KB. Maybe one more question before we wrap up. Harley, if you can
Oh
unmute.
yeah. Hi guys. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you for bringing me up. Anyway, I have few questions here. I'm not actually in the Discord, so and
Mm,
this is only my what they call this this is only my observation. So I'm
mm,
seeing F projects right now failing because they lock their Discord. Like, how do you guys get the interest of the investors if the Discord is locked? How are they gonna be informed? What's the roadmap? Everything about the project if it's locked.
mm,
I mean, is it time for for the projects guys to open up in public, though there are some security issues, but I'm seeing locked discords get hacked as well, like uh I mean possessed discord, and they are super locked, but then they got hacked. So I mean, it's not the locking of discords maybe is the problem for security issues. Maybe
yeah.
there are some precautions, or we
Mm,
can constantly remind the public or the community to of course take care of themselves, because
mm,
scammers are everywhere. But yeah, just I'm gonna go back to my point that projects are failing, like even the biggest ones that are anticipated to be big, it's
mm,
like they're failing because they're super gated. Like it's not inclusive. So my point is that I hope it's time for some projects to open up to be more inclusive to others like me. I'm not in your Discord, guys, but I just noticed, and I'm checking out your tweets. I'm interested. And one more question here is that is it like a licensed NFT of Ultraman? Because I've seen licensed NFT of NBA, I've seen licensed NFT of Batman. So is this the licensed one?
okay, so I think there are two-part question, right? The first part is on being inclusive and open up Discord, right? And the
Yeah.
second part is on the NFTs being licensed. So I'll take the first one, and then I think Whoopsie from Taika can take the second one. So in terms of being inclusive, right? Actually, our Discord is already open. If you go to our profile, you can actually click on the Discord link to join the server. But I actually want to touch upon why we initially made it a private server in the first place. So one, I think, as I mentioned earlier, right, like for any NFT projects, the very very important thing about the project is actually the community. So if we decide to open the server right up away, right, one of our concern initially was that okay, if we um, somehow onboard everyone to the server, for one, there's going to be a lot of bots. Two, a lot of grinders, people who don't really care about the project, just want to be here. And imagine you are starting off in the server, right? And you see a lot of chats, a lot of bots in, right? We won't be able to even make real connections there. And that's why we made sure that our Discord is private in the beginning and that we onboard or handpick different members to join the server, because we want to create an environment where people can actually build connections. And so far I think we've done a pretty good job in setting up a culture. We have quite a strong founding community, and as you mentioned, right, a lot of projects fail actually because their server is so gated. There's not much information to for people to join, and we totally get that. Actually, from my perspective, right, if you actually have DM'd Ultraman to get into the server, we actually reply to all the DMs and then we send private links to everyone. Even though that is super super labor intensive, like we care about the community, and we think like it's important for us to make sure that okay, if you ask for an invite link, we make sure we provide. But we didn't want to open the server in the beginning just because we want to create or foster an environment where people can actually really build real connections. um, on the second end, right, as you mentioned earlier, Discord is very very well, most of the hacks that happen, it actually comes from Discord or internal members. So while the server was private, we actually went through multiple Discord to make sure that our server, we minimize the potential vulnerabilities of the server as much as possible as well. So on the security side, that was why it was taking a bit of time as well. But you also asked about when we're gonna open the server, right? So we actually opened the server last week, but we didn't make an announcement. And we made the server private again because Me6 bot was hacked. So when it was compromised, we decided to make the server private, but we've just made it public. So I think if you go to our Twitter profile, you can probably join the Discord. And even though we haven't announced it yet, right? Next week, we're gonna make an announcement to officially let people know that hey, we actually have a live Discord on our profile. But if you've been following or checking our profile, the link has been live for quite a bit of time. So yeah, so that's the part on Discord. And yeah, we totally agree with you. A lot of, we also want to make sure that everyone can join in, but it was a super tough decision to make, because we, on one end, we need to balance creating an environment where people can build real connections, and on the other hand, we also don't want to spend too much time replying to DMs because it's actually taking a lot of time from us. But now the community is ready. We've set up the OG crew who's gonna be making nominations on the new members to join the whitelist. So on that end, you can probably already join now. And yeah, so that's the part on the Discord. And then the second part question, right, is this a licensed product, a licensed NFT product? So I'm going to let Woofsy from Taiga take this one because he's the RIP guy basically.
Yep. Yeah. Regarding license, just want to clarify a little bit earlier about the three countries that we have the license for. Um, so it's everywhere else except Thailand, Japan, and the US. If the we KB write a quite a comprehensive piece on our license, I suggest you have a read through about it. We try to be as transparent as comprehensive as possible to share transparency to the community, make sure they understand what our IP covers, what it does not covers. Um, we actually have a quiz. We had a quiz where we give out whitelists to the community who participated on questions regarding our IP, reinforcing the transparency we want to be with the community. But just to a TLDR on the piece, basically we have the reproduction right, licensing right, copyright of the Ultraman license in everywhere except Thailand, Japan, and the US. It's a legitimate license. You can check out again the piece that KB wrote. But yeah, if do you have any specific questions on the IP? I think um, all the admins, all the moderators are happy to answer, or I can address any specific question right now also.
Yeah, and I actually want to add on to Happy, right? So, DWeb as a company, they have been building Ultraman games and putting it on Apple Store and App Store. So typically, when you build an app, right, and you want to put it on App Store, you have to go through need to validate all these IPs. So the fact that we have been operating years on like the both of Apple Store and Google Play Store, I think speak volume to the history of our IPs.
Right.
Thank you both for those thorough explanations. We're going to get to our last question from either Jorgen or Jurgen, I'm assuming. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, I just have a simple question. Are there any? Can you share any obstacles or difficulties that you have faced when releasing this project? Also, do you think that the other company who has current rights for the next Ultramans can they also create their own NFTs and be a direct competitor to your NFTs?
Yeah, so I think I can take this one and have Whoopsie, if I miss any points, please feel free to add on. But I think this is also a two-part question, right? The first is, okay, what's the obstacle that we face so far? And the second is in regards to the other IP owner, right? So I think if you talk about our obstacles, right? Obviously, running an NFT project is not easy. There are actually a lot of um, issues that could pop up at any time. So um, I wouldn't say obstacles, but I think we've faced a lot of challenges. I'd phrase it that way. Of making sure that all the community members are happy, everyone is catered towards, the right direction, right? And from our point of view, we know for sure that we can't. We're everyone's going to make a mistake, right? But what we believe is the key important, the most important factor when running a project is two things. One is to remain resilient, right? So if we're resilient, meaning that okay, if anything comes at us, we evaluate the situation and handle it accordingly, right? And the second one is perseverance. So as you persevere, you keep working hard, you make sure you give back values to the holders. I think those are the two key things that will probably allow us to um, go through any adversity, right? So that's on the on the key challenges and how we deal with it. And just that I
Awesome,
think
Mike.
is
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I think that's a good thoughts. Definitely, some muddy things there for I think some folks that maybe aren't as familiar with IP and things like that. And this team is pretty transparent. They post it on Twitter. They talk about it in their Discord. So definitely jump in if you've got continued questions about IP or really anything to do with the project. Maybe as we're wrapping up here, one of the things that the Ultraman team has been gracious enough to do for us is allow us to give away 3 whitelist spots as a part of this spaces. And folks that have been in my space previously know we generally do these in different ways. The way we're going to do the giveaway today is pretty quick and easy. We're going to give 1 whitelist spot to each of the 3 individuals that asked the question today. So appreciate you all. We have your Twitter names. You will receive a DM, I believe, directly from the Metaverse HQ account on Twitter. So the host that you see here, you'll receive a DM there. You'll have to join the Discord, etc. and then the team will walk you through the rest. But definitely appreciate those questions and appreciate the Ultraman team for allowing us to give away some spots and make some people's day.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Metaverse HQ team. Thank you for having us. Super, super great to be here today. And thank you everyone who joined as well. Thank you so much for your interest and support. And if you feel like your questions, happy to take them in the server as well. Ask us in the suggestion channel or anything into making improvements because we want to make sure this project is a success. So, if you have any suggestions or have any questions you would like us to clarify, please feel free to drop us a note on Discord.
Awesome. And as we wrap up, that Discord link is in the bio of the Ultraman ETH Twitter account. So click that account, follow the account, join the Discord, ask the questions, and engage with the community. Again, appreciate everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to you all. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
having us.
everybody.